Have you ever had that one friend that's always jumping from one thing to the other with regard to their different projects? For example, they go to a seminar on real estate and all of a sudden they're a real estate guru. Or they see a guy with a nice car that he's fixed up and they start talking to him and all of a sudden they're all about it. That's kind of how the stacking community is in general. When you really think about it, so much of the stacking community is influenced by what they see and what they hear rather than anything, really fundamental or particular to the stacking community. What do I mean by that? Well, when you think about stacking, when you think about how you got started stacking, I would say in the YouTube days, most stackers probably either got it handed down as a hobby from uncles, dads, grandpas, teaching the kids about this is why you want to have gold and silver and blah blah blah, here's the value. But these days, especially in the age of YouTube, so much comes down to who are the first channels that you see when you first start stacking. So much of your opinion is going to be formed by the biases that person has on their channel or whatever they believe in. Now, even from the get-go, it's not that you're going to, necessarily agree with, whatever these people say, verbatim. But a lot of the way that you think about stacking, the pros and cons of what it is to be a stacker, you're really going to take from them. And I don't think most stackers even realize that. It's very funny to me because when I think about my own stacking journey and like where I started and, just jumping into it, like, taking the first leap to buy some, bullion, it's actually hilarious to me that I distinctly recall watching a video, and I can't remember the specific channel's name. It was someone with quite a few followers. I think he had like 40,000. He was big into the pandas. He was making videos all the time. Now, it does bug me that I can't remember this channel's name. But this particular channel, a few years later, he started having issues. His mom had health issues, so he was becoming more sporadic with his video making. And he also just started making hype videos, which is weird because I think, just based on his normal content, he had a pretty good following. So I'm not sure why he went down that route. I ended up having to unsubscribe and kind of keep thumbings down or giving the thumbs down to his videos, not because of, not liking the guy overall, but just his content went just purely hype, which was kind of crazy. But anyway, one thing that I remember is that, he did a video on just, hey, if you're new to stacking, you want to stick to JM Bullion or APMEX, to purchase your bullion. So I thought, okay, well, you know what? Let me take the leap and get in there and make a purchase. Let me see what it's all about. So my first order was actually some APMEX 1 ounce bars. And when I got them, I think I also ordered like some type of collectible 1/4 ounce silver from the Australian Mint. I don't think it was Perth. I think it was the Royal Australian Mint. That sounds so weird to say because automatically we think of Perth, but I think it was like the Victory and the Pacific coin series because I liked the design on it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I've always been like pretty fascinated by military history. And so those looked pretty cool. So anyway, that was my first foray into making an actual purchase. And then, of course, like everyone else, like once you get your first pieces of silver, you're just like, you're hooked, you're in. But I look back and I'm like, wow, so much of the way that I think of stacking was really guided by the things that I heard early on. Like, the normal cliches, silver's going to do this, and when this and this happens, silver's going to go through the roof, and blah, 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 blah. How many of those actually panned out in real life? Yeah, not many. In fact, I think as time goes on, the more I realize that a lot of the cliches, while well-intentioned and, may have been true at some point, like, silver protects you from this and that, or blah, blah, blah. Those things may have been true at some point, but just in the current environment and with the way things work, a lot of those things just aren't true anymore. And it just occurred to me like, wow, like just like anything else, those formulative periods of time did I say formative periods of time. Whenever you're taking on any type of new endeavor, your thoughts and your perspective is shaped so much by whoever introduces you to it that it's hard to shake those initial concepts, those initial thoughts that you have. But it's very interesting to me. Like when I think back, I'm just like, wow, I have such a different perspective than when I started. Now, as far as how I stack, what I actually buy, I don't think that portion has really changed all that much, except that obviously when you first start, you probably go with generic bullion or, eagles or maples or something, just to kind of see what you like, because you have no concept of what's what. And even so, you're willing to potentially pay a little bit more just to get some into your hands. Once you have it, it's like, okay, I get what it's about. And then you become more selective. You kind of pick your strategy or whatever it is. But it's just funny to me because when I think of like, everyone has that one friend that, even if it's not in your immediate circle, of these people who they jump head first into things. They see an infomercial on real estate, or they start watching a real estate YouTube, and all of a sudden they're putting away money to start, their real estate empire, or they watch Meet Kevin or the other investment gurus, and they start throwing money at the speculation stocks, and just waiting for, hey, you don't understand, these are going to be the next big thing, and it's going to go to the moon and blah 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 blah. These people are everywhere, and I think they also exist in the stacking community, although it's harder to see because I think like anything, these are all concepts that occur to me as time goes on. I think the stacking community is very protective of its own, in that it's very hard to disparage other stackers from what they're doing, because at the end of the day they're still a stacker, right? These kind of things, you never think about them, but they're kind of true. It's very hard to tell a stacker, hey, like, you're probably not doing the right thing. For example, if you saw somebody who was purchasing a very expensive collectible bullion, are you really going to be able to tell that person, especially if it was a person you knew in real life, hey, that's, you probably shouldn't do that? Or are you going to sit there and say, buy what you like? I think there's going to be a lot of both. I think that, people are it's very difficult to tell people, but then even in that case, are you forcing your opinion on them, or are you giving them wise, input? These are the things, these are the things that you think about. These are the things you think about as a stacker. At the end of the day, I mean, I think the reality is that for any stacker, it's always better to have some than none, but it's also better not to go, full, I was going to say balls to the wall, but I don't know if that's appropriate for YouTube. But yeah, I mean, I think as with anything, I think stackers, the crazy part for me about the stacking community is stackers in general run the full gamut of like, means. So having money, not having money, there's a lot of people, there's everybody in between. The knowledge base is, again, fully across the board, and I'm not just talking about like knowledge base as far as metals. Like, there's people who are probably on the lower education side, as well, all the way up to very, very educated people. Now, that's not to say that you need to have an advanced education to be a smart person. Not at all. There are plenty of smart people who don't go to college, don't finish high school, and they're brilliant in different things. It's not about that. I'm just saying the strata of who is a stacker and who comprises the stacking community is pretty interesting, pretty across the board, like well developed. And these kind of things are important because when you're ingesting the content of the community, that's the hard part, because again, you don't know who these people are behind the camera or whatever. You have no idea. It's interesting to me too that for the channels that make like coin shop videos across the board, when I think of silver, or particularly silver, not so much gold, but silver as an investment. When you think about it and you're sitting there telling yourself that silver is going to go to the moon, or this or that or the other thing is going to happen, but yet you have to reconcile that with how come coin shop owners aren't these rich people? Well, you don't know that. They could be rich. Yeah, about that. Most of the coin shop owners are very candid about the fact that it's not the type of business where you make a lot of money. You don't take a lot of profit. It's not a high profit type of business. And so, it seems like when you watch, enough interviews with coin shop owners, that it's more a labor of love than a very profitable, business. That being said, if it was something where these coin shop owners, and I think, it was T that was talking to Sherry, and he asked her, do you guys speculate? Do you, when prices are low, do you stock up so that when it jumps back up, you're making the spread? And she's like, no. She's like, we can't do that. First of all, you have no idea which way direction is going to go in the short term. But secondly, it's more of just about turnover. What comes in the door, just get it back out so that we can make our spread on it, which makes perfect sense. But that kind of flies in the face of, silver or gold going to the moon. You know what I mean? Why? Well, why is that? How can I say that? Well, think about it like this. If that was really the case, that silver was really going to go to the moon at some point, who would be in a better position to know what the mechanism for that was going to be? You, the person who has their own job, you, the person, the cashier at Lowe's, or the lawyer who does estate planning, or the doctor or the anesthesiologist, whatever it is you do, or the person who's literally doing that all day long, reading up on silver, knowing the prices, knowing the market for metals and all these different things. Who's going to be better positioned? Probably the coin shop owner, right? Yeah, they should. I mean, you would think that, especially if they've been in the business long enough. They kind of get the ebbs and flows. They've kind of seen these things, back and forth. But every time a new stacker enters the arena, they're smarter than the average bear. You don't get it. You don't know. This time's different. The worst phrase that you could ever hear is "this time's different," because it's never different. It's always the same thing over and over and over. As much as we'd love for it to be different, things always end up going back to the way they were in some form or fashion. Now, there may be little differences, but it's not, things are never the big different cataclysm that people make them out to be. And I think a lot of the investment standpoint of silver in particular is built on that. Oh my God, the dollar's going to crash and then silver's going to have its day. Oh, there's going to be a war and the SHTF and then silver's going to have its day. Or no. And then even if that did happen, silver would be of very little utility to you, except to make your warm little heart feel great while you're sitting next to the fire, trying to keep it going, and then trying to do your poured rounds while the world's falling down around you. It's a crazy world, but it's so interesting. Again, the very early things that you watch on YouTube about stocking make a huge difference in how you view the community as a whole.